for the wealthy.
All right, joining us now to talk more about this from our Fox office right outside the Capitol, Republican Congressman Wittman from Virginia. Also, Democratic Congresswoman Donna Edwards joins us this morning via phone. Congressman Wittman, Congresswoman Edwards, good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
All right, let's talk first about the president's speech yesterday where he called on the nation to reduce the deficit by $4 trillion over 12 years. Democrats say it cuts the deficit. Republicans say it raises taxes. Congressman Wittman, you get first crack at this one. What's your response?
Well, I would like to see us do more to cut the deficit, especially long-term, and to make sure, too, that we're not putting the burden on the backs of our small businesses. I mean, they're the job creators. Increasing taxes during these times when we have challenges in our economy is not the right way to go about making sure that we grow our economy. We need to be growing our economy, not growing the government.
All right, Congresswoman Edwards, I want to get your response to this because there'd obviously been, talk for the president. He didn't like the Congressman Ryan's budget plan. What's your response?
Well, you can't grow the economy by cutting education, getting rid of programs that make sure that children get a good head start in school, cutting nutrition programs that feed children and others so that they can go and get a good education. And so I think what the president has done and what Democrats are doing in Congress is to say, we may share a view that we have to make sure that we get control of our debt and our deficits, but there's a responsible way to do that and put everything on the table, including defense cuts, which the Republicans for some reason refuse to do, and extending these tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. Americans don't agree with that. We think that people should pay their fair share, and the wealthy aren't, and it's to the tune of $1 trillion a year. It's something we can't afford.
All right, Congressman Wittman, any response to what your colleague from Maryland has to say?
I would say it's not about taxing millionaires and billionaires. It's about those small businessmen and women out there. The threshold's at $250,000. Those are the folks that are really going to help us get out of this economic malaise that we're in. And as far as our total efforts to cut spending, we need to make sure that we hold defense spending whole. We have significant challenges out there around the world. We must make sure we properly resource our defense efforts while at the same time looking across the board on budgets to make sure we're reducing spending elsewhere. Now, we can be more efficient in the defense spending side, and we ought to do that. But overall, the American people expect us to reduce spending, to get this government under control, to get our deficits down, to start to retire this national debt. That's critical. We see that it has a significant impact on our private economy if we don't do those things. Again, it really is about doing the proper things in Washington, both with tax policy and with significant reductions in spending to grow the economy, not to grow the government. We've doubled spending since the year 2000 to now. That's unsustainable. We've seen that it hasn't resulted in any positive aspects for our economy. Let's get down to really controlling this government, getting it back into an aspect where we know that we can afford what we're doing, just like families. You have to balance this as a family budget. We can't spend more than what we bring in. For the long term, we know that that's detrimental to this country.
All right, Congresswoman Edwards, you could respond to that if you choose. Also want to talk about the 2011 budget, which got just a little bit of attention over the last week or so. Now it's time to vote on it. Any surprises expected here?
Well, no, I don't think so. I mean, obviously, I think it's up to the Republicans to pass their spending plan for the remainder of this fiscal year, and I'm sure that the Speaker is going to find his votes to do that. I have to tell you, I mean, it's still very disappointing the level of cuts that are in this spending plan for 2011, but more importantly, on this budget for the upcoming fiscal year, to cut Medicare and turn it into a voucher program. People depend on Medicare. Medicare is a program that actually works, and if you want to do anything, I mean, make sure that Medicare, that we're able to negotiate prescription drug prices and things like that really go at the cost for Medicare, but you can't go around turning it into a voucher program and then saying to seniors, you're on your own. That's not going to work. And so I look forward to this debate because I think it's an important debate about values. It's important debate for Democrats to say we stand for education and for the future and then taking care of people when they've paid into the system. And if the Republicans want to stand with the wealthiest 2%, giving them tax cuts, a bloated defense budget where we're spending on wars that were started by the previous administration and seem to have no end, then let them stake that claim for their values. Our values are going to be with the American people.
Congressman Wittman, I'll give you a chance to respond to that if you choose. I also want to switch gears for a minute because I know that you're also going to be busy on the Hill today. Something that's very near and dear to you, which is what's happening at Arlington National Cemetery, a House subcommittee hearing today. You're very much involved with that. What answers do you seek when it comes to that hearing today?
Well, we're going to be very forthright with the administrator there at Arlington National Cemetery, as well as those folks within the Army. We're deeply concerned about the mismanagement that's taken place there, and it seems like day after day after day we hear more and more horror stories of our national heroes and what's happening with their remains, with identification of the remains, with how Arlington is being run. Arlington, I think, needs to be held to the absolute highest standard. It's unconscionable and absolutely unacceptable that in any situation we can't identify remains. We aren't absolutely certain about headstones and where remains are located, and making sure that those things agree. Families are not confident that they can clearly identify where their loved ones are located there. I mean, that is just absolutely unacceptable. And it seems as though on a daily basis we hear more and more horror stories about that. So today's hearing will be about touching on how this has affected the lives of our men and women who have served this nation and their families, and then also to determine what is being done. Again, the standard needs to be absolute, clear identification of every set of remains there, and without reproach, making sure that that cemetery is run in the highest, with the highest manner possible of rigor in making sure that those families and our loved ones that have served this nation are held in the highest respect as far as their internment and also the ceremonies held there at Arlington.
And Congresswoman Edwards, you're certainly involved in many other projects as well. You're fasting this week along with 13 other women in Congress. What's your reason for getting involved in the Hunger Fest?
Well, I think it's to draw attention to the fact that it's really important for us to support lunch and supper programs in our schools, like those in the Maryland schools, where young people whose families can't afford for them to have a hot meal during the week receive these funds, and to join with our sisters and mothers and children around the world who are starving and who live in poverty. And the cuts that we're seeing both in our current fiscal year plan and in these budget plans really go at the heart, again, I say, of our values. And so I'm fasting to show solidarity with all of those who don't have to just go 1 day or 1 hour without food, but they don't eat at all. And to Congressman Wittman, I just want to say thank you very much for the work that you're doing on Arlington Cemetery. My dad was a veteran, my brother a veteran, family and friends who are interned at Arlington, and this is a real tragedy, and it brings tears to my eyes.
A couple of really important initiatives both of you are working on. Congresswoman Donna Edwards from Maryland, Congressman Rob Wittman from Virginia, thank you so much for both joining us this morning. Good luck with your individual efforts, and combined, we certainly appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you.
7:48 right now. We're going to have much more coming up as Fox 5 Morning News continues on this Thursday morning.